For centuries, the clash between armored knights and humble archers has fascinated historians and storytellers alike. On one side, we picture towering warriors encased in gleaming steel, mounted on powerful war horses, embodying the very image of medieval dominance. On the other, the bowmen lightly equipped, often drawn from the lower classes, yet armed with a weapon capable of deciding the fate of kingdoms. But who really had the edge? Were knights truly unstoppable juggernauts? Or were archers the great equalizers off battlefield? Today, we will dive deep into history, strategy, and legend to unravel this struggle, from the muddy fields of Crecy to the windswept plains of Agincourt. From the armored charge to the hail of arrows, we will explore not just who won in famous battles, but why. This is the story of knights versus archers, the eternal duel between plate and bow. To understand the confrontation, we must first understand the knight. The knight was not just a soldier, he was a symbol of status, wealth, and feudal obligation. Emerging in the 9th and 10th centuries, knights represented the professional warriors of medieval Europe. Their training began in childhood, first as pages, then as squires, and eventually culminating in knighthood, a sacred ceremony that tied them to ideals of loyalty, faith, and martial skill. The knight's advantage lay in his equipment. By the late Middle Ages, a fully armored knight was encased in plate steel from head to toe, resistant to slashes, thrusts, and often even to early arrows. Mounted on a destrier, bred for strength and stamina, he could deliver crushing charges capable of breaking enemy lines. Knights dominated warfare for centuries. Castles, tournaments, and even entire economies were built around them. Yet as their power grew, so too did the ingenuity of those who sought to bring them down. The archer, by contrast, was often of humbler origins. In England, many were yeoman farmers. In Wales and Scotland, archery had long been a tradition, while in Asia, mounted archers like the Mongols had already proven devastating. But in Western Europe, it was the English longbow that changed everything. A weapon standing as tall as a man, made from yew wood, capable of firing an arrow over 250 yards with lethal force. It required immense strength to draw, often over 100 pounds of force, to hold it effectively. Archers trained from boyhood, their skeletons warped by years of practice, their shoulders broad and powerful. Unlike the knight's sword or lance, the longbow was a weapon of the masses. A single archer could fire 10 to 12 arrows per minute, raining down destruction in volumes no knight could match. While one knight might kill a handful of enemies in close combat, an organized corps of archers could slay dozens before an enemy even reached their lines. This imbalance of numbers and firepower set the stage for some of the most dramatic clashes in medieval history. Our story of knights versus archers truly comes alive in 1346, at the Battle of Crecy during the 100 Years' War. King Edward III of England faced a far larger French army under King Philip VI. The French boasted thousands of knights, the very cream of chivalry. The English, however, brought with them their deadly longbowmen. As the French knights charged, expecting to ride down their enemies, they were met instead by clouds of arrows. Horses screamed as shafts pierced their eyes and flanks. Riders fell in heaps, their armor dented but not always penetrated, yet their mounts, far less protected, could not endure. Time and again, French cavalry tried to break the English lines, but the ground was muddy, the English defensive position strong, and the archers relentless. The result was a slaughter. The flower of French nobility lay in heaps upon the battlefield, defeated not by equal knights, but by common bowmen. Crecy revealed something shocking. The knight, once thought invincible, was vulnerable to a weapon wielded by ordinary men. If Crecy raised doubts about the supremacy of knights, the Battle of Agincourt made it undeniable. On October 25, 1415, Henry V of England, with a weary and outnumbered army, faced a massive French force. His soldiers were exhausted from a long march and disease, yet once again he relied on the longbowmen. The battlefield was narrow, hemmed in by woods. The ground, sodden with rain, turned to thick mud. When the French knights advanced, their heavy armor became a curse. They sank knee-deep, slipping, stumbling, suffocating in their own steel. Meanwhile, the English archers loosed volley after volley, their arrows darkening the sky. The French advance turned into chaos. with knights crushed beneath their comrades. Unable to fight effectively, the French nobility, thousands strong, were cut down. Henry's army, vastly outnumbered, won a miraculous victory. At Agincourt, the longbow did not just defeat knights, it humbled them, shattering their aura of battlefield dominance. Yet, we must ask, were archers truly the conquerors of knights, or were these victories the result of circumstance? Historians caution against oversimplification. The longbow was powerful, yes, but plate armor of the 15th century was nearly impervious to arrows at long range. Knights often survived direct hits. What doomed them at Crecy and Agincourt was not merely the bow, but the combination of terrain, weather, discipline, and strategy. The longbow was not a magic weapon, it was part of a system. Stakes were driven into the ground to block cavalry. Mud slowed the enemy. Discipline ensured the archers fired in volleys, maximizing psychological terror as much as physical harm. In truth, knights remained formidable throughout the Middle Ages. When properly supported by infantry, when fighting on open, dry ground, they could still smash through archers. And as gunpowder spread, both knight and longbowmen would ultimately be rendered obsolete. By the 16th century, firearms began to replace bows on the battlefield. A musket did not require a lifetime of training like the longbow. A peasant could be drilled to fire within weeks. Against bullets, even the finest armor was useless. Knights, once the masters of war, became ceremonial relics. Archers, too, faded from armies, replaced by musketeers and pikemen, but the legacy of their class lived on. The longbowmen symbolized the power of ordinary soldiers against the aristocratic elite, while the knight remained an icon of nobility and courage. The struggle between knights and archers represents more than just a military rivalry. It symbolizes the tension between privilege and practicality, between tradition and innovation. Knights embodied centuries of feudal hierarchy, while archers foreshadowed the rise of mass armies, the democratization of warfare, and the eventual shift toward nation-states. Even in legend, this rivalry lives on. From Robin Hood loosing arrows in Sherwood Forest to depictions of noble knights riding to their doom, the imagery continues to captivate us. And while historians still debate whether arrows truly pierce plate armor, what is certain is that battles like Crecy and Agincourt showed the world that no warrior, no matter how noble or armored, was invincible. So, who truly had the edge? The answer lies somewhere in the middle. The knight was a masterpiece of martial tradition, skill, and engineering, while the archer was a testament to discipline, endurance, and collective strength. When conditions favored them, knights could dominate. But when archers were well-positioned, disciplined, and supported by terrain, they could bring down the mightiest lords of Europe. The truth, then, is not that one defeated the other forever, but that together, their struggle reshaped medieval warfare. And in the echoes of those arrows, in the clash of steel upon mud-soaked fields, we hear the turning of history's wheel. The knight's age would end, but the story of the knight versus the archer endures, an eternal reminder that every weapon, every strategy, every warrior has its time in the sun.